Hello, welcome to my first Storytime video of this week. It's Monday and we are going to be reading The Giraffe, the Pelly and Me by Roald Dahl. So let's get going. Not far from where I live, there is a queer old empty wooden house standing all by itself on the side of the road. I long to explore inside it, but the door is always locked, and when I peer through a window, all I can see is darkness and dust. I know the ground floor used once to be a shop because I can still read the faded lettering across the front, which says, "The Grubber." My mother has told me that in our part of the country in the olden days, a grubber was another name for a sweet shop. And now every time I look at it, I think to myself, what a lovely sweet shop it must have been. On the shop window itself, somebody has painted in white the words, "For Sale." One morning I noticed that "For Sale" had been scraped off the shop window, and in its place somebody had painted "Sold." I stood there staring at the new writing and wishing like mad that it had been me that had bought it, because then I would have been able to make it into a grubber all over again. I've always longed and longed to own a sweet shop. There's the person telling this story. The sweet shop of my dreams would be loaded from top to bottom with sherbet suckers and caramel fudge and Russian toffee and sugar snorters and butter gumballs and thousands of other glorious things like that. Oh boy, what I couldn't have done with that old grubber shop if it had been mine. On my next visit to the grubber, I was standing across the road at the wonderful old building when suddenly an enormous bathtub came sailing out through one of the second floor windows and crashed right onto the middle of the road. A few moments later, a white porcelain lavatory pan with the wooden seat still on it came flying out of the same window and landed with a wonderful splintering crash just beside the bathtub. What do you think a white porcelain lavatory pan is? If you've not heard the word lavatory before, the lavatory is the toilet. So a toilet came out flying out of the window. This was followed by a kitchen sink and an empty canary cage and a four-poster bed and two hot water bottles and a rocking horse and a sewing machine and goodness knows what else besides. It looked as though some madman was ripping out the whole of the inside of the house, because now pieces of staircase and bits of the banisters and a whole lot of old floorboards came whistling through the windows. Then there was silence. I waited and waited, but not another sound came from within the building. I crossed the road and stood right under the windows and called out, "Is anybody home?" There was no answer. In the end, it began to get dark, so I had to turn away and start walking home. Look, there you can see the picture of everything being thrown out of the window. But you can bet your life nothing was going to stop me from hurrying back there again tomorrow morning to see what the next surprise was going to be. When I got back to the grubber house the next morning, the first thing I noticed was the new door. The dirty old brown door had been taken out, and in its place someone had fitted a brand new red one. The new door was fantastic. It was twice as high as the other one had been, and it looked ridiculous. I couldn't begin to imagine who would want a tremendous tall door like that in this house unless it was a giant. As well as this, somebody had scraped away the sold notice on the shop window, and now there was a whole lot of different writing all over the glass. I stood there reading it and reading it and reading it, trying to figure out what on earth it all meant. Look, you can see the writing. I'll read it to you. It says, "The Ladderless Window Cleaning Company. Get your windows cleaned without a lot of dirty ladders leaning against your house." Interesting. So a company that cleans windows but doesn't use a ladder to get up there. I tried to catch some sign or sound of movement inside the house, but there was none, until all of a sudden, out the corner of my eye, I noticed that one of the windows on the top floor was slowly beginning to open outwards. Then a head appeared at the open window. I stared back at the head. The head stared back at me with big, round, dark eyes. Have a look at who is staring out the window. Suddenly, a second window was flung wide open, and all of the crazy things, a gigantic white bird, hopped out and perched on the windowsill. I knew what this one was because of its amazing beak, which was shaped like a huge orange-coloured basin. You know what kind of bird this is? It's a pelican. The pelican looked down at me and sang out, "Oh, how I wish for a big fat fish. I'm as hungry as ever could be. A dish of fish is my only wish. How far are we from the sea?" "We're a long way from the sea," I called back to him, "but there is a fishmonger in the village not far away." "A fish what? A fishmonger? Now what on earth would that be?" asked the pelican. "I have heard of a fish pie, and a fish cake, and a fish finger, but I have never heard of a fishmonger. Are these mongers good to eat?" This question baffled me a little bit, so I said, "Well, who's your friend in the next window?" "She is the giraffe," the pelican answered. "Is she not wonderful? Her legs are on the ground floor and her head is looking out of the top window." As if all this wasn't enough, the window on the first floor was now flung wide open and out popped a monkey. The monkey stood on the windowsill and did a little jiggly dance. He was so skinny, he seemed to be made out of only furry bits of wire. But he danced wonderfully well, and I clapped and cheered and did a little dance myself in return. "We are the window cleaners," sang out the monkey. "We will polish your glass till it's shining like brass, and it sparkles like sun on the sea. We are quick and polite, we will come day or night, the giraffe, the Pelly, and me. We're a fabulous crew, we know just what to do, and we never stop wasting tea. All your windows will glow when we give them a go, the giraffe, the Pelly, and me. We use water and soap, plus some kindness and hope, but we never use ladders, not we. Who needs ladders at all when you're 30 feet tall? Not Giraffe and not Pelly, not me." I stood there enthralled. Then I heard the giraffe saying to the pelican in the next window, "Pelly, my dear, be so good as to fly down and bring that small person up here to talk to us." At once the pelican spread his huge white wings and flew down onto the road beside me. "Hop in," he said, opening his enormous beak. I stared at the great orange beak and backed away. "Go on," the monkey shouted from up in his window. "The Pelly isn't going to swallow you. Climb in." I said to the pelican, "I'll only get in if you promise not to shut your beak while I'm inside." "You have nothing to fear," said the pelican. "And let me tell you why. I have a very special beak. A special beak have I. You'll never see a beak so fine. I don't care where you go. There's magic in this beak of mine. Hop in and don't say no." There's a little picture of the pelican's excitingly big beak. If you've never seen a pelican before, or you didn't know about pelicans, maybe give them a little bit of a Google later. "I will not hop in," I said, "unless you swear on your honour that you won't shut your beak once I'm inside. I don't like small dark places." "When I have done what I'm just about to do," said the Pelican, "I won't be able to shut it. You don't seem to understand how my beak works." "Show me," I said. "Watch this," said the Pelican. I watched in amazement as the top half of the Pelican's beak began to slide smoothly towards his head until the whole thing was almost out of sight. There's a little diagram here. "It bends and goes down inside the back of my neck," cried the Pelican. "Is that not sensible? Is it not magical?" "It's unbelievable," I cried. "It's exactly like one of those metal tape measures my father's got at home. When it's out, it's straight. When you slide it back in, it bends and it disappears." "Precisely," said the Pelican. "You see, the top half is of no use to me unless I am chewing fish. The bottom half is what counts, my lad. The bottom half of this glorious beak of mine is the bucket in which we carry our window-cleaning water. So if I didn't slide the top half away, I'd be standing around all day long holding it open. So I slide it away for the rest of the day. Even so, I'm still able to speak, and wherever I've flown, it has always been known as a pelican's patented beak. If I want to eat fish, that's my favourite dish, what I do is give it a tweak. In the blink of an eye, out it pops and they cry, it's the pelican's patented beak." "Stop showing off down there," shouted the monkey from the upstairs window. "Hurry up and bring that small person up to us. The giraffe is waiting." And we're going to stop there. I want you to have a think about whether you think this boy is going to get into the pelican's beak. And I'll be back tomorrow with more of the Giraffe, the Pelly and me.